Hello and welcome to another episode of Diaries of Badass Bosses. I am Tigz.
And I'm Penny Joyner-Platt.
And we are here with another exciting guest episode.
Yeah, guest episode day. Love these.
I know.
I do love our ones. I'm not saying I don't,
too,
but you know what? With a guest one, it's like going to get inspired, going to find out a little bit about someone and help our listeners kind of get to grips with actually something vitally important.
Yeah, because I think this is one that even though we've both worked a little bit in this world, I think we're going to get so much knowledge and expertise and talking a lot about going beyond organic reach, because I think it's important to all of us to be as visible as we can in our business. And there are things that we can do, like, you know, showing up and getting on our lives and posting and all kinds of things. But there's so much else that goes on behind the scenes that certain people in the world are experts in, aren't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think this is the thing with, what we're talking about here is it's SEO, it's organic reach, it's the whole myth behind what is good SEO, why is it important to me? But for me, I have to say that you need someone that knows what they're talking about, because it's not something that anybody, you can have a kind of understanding of it and understand what it's going to do for you, but ultimately it's so data driven and it needs to be managed, it needs to be monitored, reports produced and learnings, and that is a constant full-time job in itself. So if you run your own business and you've got all the other hats to wear, it kind of is like vitally important, but you also don't have the time that you need to dedicate to it. It's not an overnight job. No.
And also another thing that's going to come up today is paid ads. And I don't know about you, paid ads scare me, because I'm always like, how much is this actually going to take off my bank balance at the end of the day? And I've had a few goes at it. Actually, I once got given a free £50 Google AdWords voucher. This was
like everybody in the world.
Ago. Everyone gets one of them. Oh, I think I spent it in 2 days and it did nothing for me. At that point, I had not a clue. So actually, that's one of the things I'm really excited to talk about today, because there is so much that I know I'm going to take away from this. So,
it's a long-term investment. It's not about, this is going to be an overnight success. This is, I just going to get an ad and all of a sudden, my website's going to jump up. But also, I think all of us have a little bit of a negative view on SEO to a point, because of all the dodgy people out there or all the spammers out there that consistently tell me my website's crap.
Yes.
Consistently tell me they can help me with my website. Yes. And consistently tell me they can get me to number one. All these people can do that, but they never actually tell me what business they're from.
No, that's true.
They never actually sign it off properly with a real signature. Don't even know if they're actually even know what my business is, because you can see that they've literally lifted and copied and pasted it into the email. So many telltale signs.
Yeah. Especially when it comes with your Instagram at handle at the beginning. It's like, hey, at tigzrice.branding. I'm like, that's definitely my name. But yeah, I'm so excited that we can dig into the sort of the data-driven and the tech-heavy side that goes beyond that today, and I guess introduce today's guest.
Yeah.
So actually, this is someone that you work with quite a bit. So
I know, I do actually. I know him very, very well. I'm absolutely delighted to have him on the podcast. And reason being is actually he's the reason I got into podcasting. He may not even know this.
I didn't know this.
He was actually the first ever podcast I did.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, it was excellent.
So there you go.
Just singing both your praises at this
He's
point.
the reason that I'm in your ears right now. Sorry for everyone out there. You have Carl to blame. But I think we should maybe introduce him officially, and I'll let you do that.
Perfect. Well, in which case, I would love to welcome our guest today, Carl Darnell. How are you?
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, very well, thank you. Thanks for having me. I didn't know that the inspiration behind your own podcast, but yeah, so it's great to be here. Thank you very much for having me on.
I have a little bit of a bio for you so we can introduce you properly before we get right down into the techie stuff. So Carl Darnell is the founder of CRD1, a boutique digital marketing and web design agency based in Bedford that supports businesses with big ambitions by delivering measurable impact through SEO and paid advertising. With a passion for using data to accelerate business growth, Carl and his team combine a deep understanding of the digital landscape with their expertise in test and learn strategies to drive results. Creating a bespoke plan for every client, CRD1 have a proven track record of success, helping one of their clients, Gadget GoGo, increase their organic traffic by over 3,000% in 24 months. 24 months, boosting their online revenue by more than 75% in the process. These are stats that I like the sound of. As a fellow podcaster and host of the Who's Hot Desking podcast, we know you, our listeners, are going to be treated to some audio visual joy as we welcome Carl to today's episode.
That was awesome.
Well, you're welcome.
Couldn't have done that better myself.
Everyone always loves the intro bit.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, right, am I finished now?
I feel taken aback a bit, I'll be honest, to be honest.
Well, I mean, it's
It's all true.
Yeah,
We've not made anything up.
Yeah. There we go. But yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell us your origin story. How did you get to here? Where did it all start?
Yeah, so, well, we go all the way back, really. So my career in digital started in 2011. I know I only look about 15, but it was a long time ago, and just last year celebrated my 30th birthday. So my career in digital started as an apprentice. I was working in the education sector, where I stayed for about 3 years. And during that time, it was kind of the start of social being a big thing, and everyone being like, should I have a Facebook page? Like, even these are like education page. If you think now, it's like, oh my gosh, what a no brainer. SEO wasn't even in anyone's kind of minds. There was some paid advertising, so a long time ago, really. After a few years there, I studied with CIM to get some more qualifications and went on to work a little bit more in the corporate world. So I worked in for one of the UK's leading holiday providers. So there, my career kind of took a bit of a turn from campaign management, from online and offline, working through to kind of a little bit of brand management, and I finished up working in website optimization. So basically heavily data driven. During that time, we was kind of reporting from marketing teams up to director level, giving kind of the facts and figures that people actually needed, because one of our big things is that there's data for everything, and you can get paralyzed by data if you want to just keep digging. But what we try to do really well is ask what is the information that people actually want to know, and whether that be conversions, revenue, whatever that might be, only present them with that. So my time there was heavily data driven. Literally from day one, I'd never seen data like it. Like, the reporting was on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. Previously had very little experience with it, and very quickly we had to there's very much a sink or swim moment where I was just like, I need to either get on board with this or I'm going to not do well here. So yeah, I was there for 4 years, and by the end of it, we were looking to introduce GA across a portfolio of brands, making sure that there was some sort of consistency and measurement across the different kind of brands as well. So got really involved in some really exciting projects, a huge website rebuild, worked with some amazing people, like so lucky to have that experience, and tried to be as much of a sponge as I can. And that happened. And then I wanted to go traveling, as many people do. And I hadn't done the university thing, so I feel like maybe I was missing out a little bit. And I just decided that was what I was going to do. So quit my job there and went traveling for a year. And basically, during my time away, I was encouraged by a good friend, Ben, who co-host. He was saying you should get some freelance work. It'll be fine. We had kind of enough money saved to travel and not worry about it, but it's a good experience. So did the whole little digital nomad thing for a little while, picked up some clients, and it kind of snowballed from there, to be honest. Come back in 2019, and it was at that moment of, what do we do now? Do I kind of like try and run with this freelancey consultancy kind of vibe, or go back into the world of work? I was very lucky in the sense that I had been offered a sabbatical, so I had the opportunity to go back, but chose not to, and went down this freelance route. And 4 years on, we're now kind of at a point whereby we've gone into, we're a small business, we're starting to employ people now, and just naturally trying to grow the business using that data-driven background and applying it to SEO, web design, paid ads, and trying to build something that's genuinely impacts people by driving results that are measurable. In a
Sounds
way.
incredible. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that digital nomad period, because I think it's becoming more and more popular. Like, what was that experience like for you? Like, trying to, I guess, run a business and gain employment, but also traveling. Like, describe that experience.
So it was quite easy, because in some ways, because there wasn't the drive for a salary or any need for earning anything, right? So actually it allowed me to look at the network around me of who might need some help and try and offer services that way. It was great. I mean, I was in Buenos Aires building a website for an old friend. I was in Chiang Mai in Thailand doing SEO campaign. I pulled together one of my first big clients. I was doing their kind of pitch documentation and proposals in a hotel in Kuala Lumpur. It sounds all glamorous, but
it does sound very glamorous. I mean, I'm not going to lie.
Send me now.
I mean, you're still in hostels. Like, it's not glamorous like what you might believe on Instagram. I mean, you're still on a laptop in a cafe. You're just in somewhere that's a little bit hotter, and
you're just sweating.
Yeah, pretty much. But, it was amazing. And yeah, it was good fun.
And did it change your perspective of, having come from this corporate life and having, done the 9-to-5 hustle? Like, did it change the perspective of the clients that was there any change in who you might have taken on as a client, for example, or like any decisions that you were like, I'm not bringing that forward into self-employed life? Yeah,
it's a good question. So when there was a big shift in the size of client was the biggest thing. So I at that point had never previously had much experience working agency side in that kind of service sector, much more in-house, which is a benefit in many ways, because I kind of was able to build and try to build what I thought I wanted when I was in-house. And there's lots of agencies that have the same model, whereas having no knowledge of that apart from being brand side was actually some ways a benefit. But yes, in answer to your question, the size of client, we were going from working with teams of people to small business owners, and that's a big shift in the kind of the client base. And one of the biggest changes was the need for education around the services. So, we would on a Monday morning sales meeting be very on, year-on-year figures, what's kind of click-through rate, or like return on investment, ROAS from ad campaigns. But you start saying that to a small business owner, and that's no discredit to small business owners. They're wearing lots of hats, and they shouldn't, it's not for their job to know it. So that's where there was like a bit more of an educational piece that has to be ingrained in our agency now, I think, because of the size of client.
Because I think that's the thing. It's the jargon side of it that when you do start kind of coming out of like the bigger business, bigger brand, where you've got multiple people doing so many different things, and you've got that tech person with that knowledge, when you then work with somebody that doesn't necessarily have that, you've got a job to do to kind of, all the detail, absolutely everything, and you want to be able to explain it as clearly as possible. It's taking it out, the jargon out of it for people. And that's kind of what I always stress when it comes to the media. Ever I media train people, it's as much as you may be the expert in your field, but trust me, everyone listening to it, you've got to cut out that jargon. So do you find that a challenge where it's like, I know I could explain this simply in my own words, but for people to understand on a general basis?
Yeah, I think as experts and leaders in businesses, it's our responsibility to be able to communicate what we're doing to our clients, and that means changing the kind of changing the way you speak and the way that you report to different clients based on their size and their scale. It's why the whole like niching down thing is really important, right? Because if you're then not trying to change the way you're talking to 16 different people, or you have some sort of consistency. But yeah, trying to get rid of that jargon is so important, especially in SEO, for all of the reasons that you mentioned at the start of the show, because there's so many people out there who claim to be gurus, which I think is a bit of a phase anyway, generally across the board in anything you go into. But even more so in the world of SEO, because like you say, everybody's trying to do it and everyone's sending you emails exactly like what you say. So yeah, it's crucial.
Yeah. And let's actually break that down for anyone listening. What is SEO?
I was about to say that. I don't think we've explained that yet in this episode. Yeah, what is SEO?
Yeah, so let's talk search engines, okay? So when search engine optimization is what SEO stands for. Now, it's effectively optimizing your online presence to appear in search engines. Now, that can start off with just being in search engines, because there's lots of businesses that aren't even in them at all for whatever reason. Now, that's like step one, getting in search engines, having your pages indexed in search engines. And a quite simple analogy in some respects might be like the old yellow pages, in the sense of Google is the yellow pages, and getting your business in there is important, right? But what SEO does is try to get you higher up, so you're like the first after letter A, or P for plumbing. You're the first there.
You're the aardvark of your business.
You're AA111 plumbing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. And that's the kind of absolute bare bones basics of SEO. It's improving your online presence in search engines. Now, as we kind of look to the future, I think that will expand beyond just Google or Bing or anything for lots of reasons. But that is the bare bones of it. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
It absolutely made sense. And I mean, there are so many ways that SEO shows up on everything, really, isn't it? So where are some of the pitfalls that you see that people might be making mistakes in their,
good
like,
question.
like whether they're building a website or, working on a blog, like what are some of the common pitfalls that you're seeing people making that before they come to you?
Yeah, good question. So I think there are a few. I think that it all starts with what do you do and for who. So almost having that kind of vision about what business you do and who you do it for is the crux of it. Because once you have that, you can then start to communicate that. Now, your website should sell your business. SEO is just a part of it. And I think people should look a little bit more holistically about SEO. We're not just there to create content and rank you for certain terms that we believe get lots of search volume and therefore lots of traffic and lots of leads. It's much bigger than that. It's being able to take a website, understand how it could be improved from a structural perspective, from like a service perspective, from a user experience perspective. It's the bare basics of it, really. And there's to coin that phrase of like being a webmaster, it's kind of like taking a website, understanding as a user what you might be missing, and it might be just a simple call to action or not having your phone number in the right places. That's the start of it. So put yourself in your user's shoes to understand, if I come onto this site, do I understand what you do, and is there a way I can, is there a call to action effectively? Now, from an SEO perspective, that previous point forms the basis of good SEO, because if you have that in place, it means that the rest of the SEO stuff will fall off the back of it quite naturally. Because if you're a service-based business in, IT, right? So you offer a service of IT managed services. So you should have a page about IT managed services. Don't just have IT managed services on a whole page of all your other services, because it's difficult to understand what that page is about, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like one thing that we're going through with a client at the minute in the service sector is that they currently have one page for all their services, and it's got loads of information about all the different services they offer. Grand, which is good to some extent. But we need to break that out into more detail, because what we want to be doing is giving Google and search engines as much context around the specifics of a service as well as your business, in order for it to understand what you do and who you do it for.
Yep.
So that's another slight pitfall. I think people kind of say, I've got a website, job done. That's it. How can I start getting rankings? And that's where people will come along and say, well, I'll sell you thousands of backlinks and that will be the magic solution that you need. It's not, by the way.
For anyone listening out there, it's not the way.
Yeah, I mean, they help, but not thousands, and quality over
not the
quantity.
ones that people are selling you in your inbox for like that. So, that's one, another factor. Another factor is just good SEO is good marketing, right? So if you think beyond your website, being known locally or being known virtually in different forums, groups and stuff like that, that all increases your online presence. Your website is almost just a bit of a portal for that. Now, but what it does as well is it influences Google's view of your site, because if you're mentioned in different websites, if you're mentioned in podcasts, in kind of online communities, it's all considered almost a nod to say, yeah, these guys are legit. These guys know what they're doing. And that, what I mean by when I say is it's good marketing, it's part of a marketing mix that SEO is just, one part of, without waffling too much.
No, not at all. I mean, how long would you expect people to start seeing results? So if they turn around and they say, right, do you know what? I need your help, Cole. Help. We're not getting ranked, or we just know that we're not coming up, or we just definitely need that guidance and audit. And, what can people expect? It's not an overnight job at all, is it?
No, definitely not. We probably are moving towards like a 6 to 9 month turnaround to see results. Now, sometimes there can be quick wins with everything. We always would prefer to under promise and over deliver, just as a rule of thumb for our business. But it's not an overnight success. And if you want overnight success, that's where kind of paid media can come and help. And there's lots of reasons that paid media and SEO can work collaboratively. So yeah, it's a 6 to 9 month process, but it is a process and it has to kind of be followed. Yeah.
And it's not one of those things that instantly ends at that 9 months, because you can't just suddenly go, all right, well, I'm on page 1 of Google and that's good enough for me, so I'll leave it, because so much changes so quickly. Like, algorithms like Google are constantly updating theirs to make sure that it's so really SEO is a completely ongoing kind of the length of your business style ongoing process, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think this is a bit of a pitfall of the industry, or this kind of so-called guru industry, is people will sell SEO as free traffic. It's absolutely not free traffic. It's an investment, just like PPC or just like social or just like CRO. It is an investment in order to generate a return. And you might be generating organic traffic, but you're paying someone to make sure you're there. And actually, when you start getting into page 1, top 3 positions of Google, that's where your hardest work starts, because maintaining it is equally as difficult as getting there.
Yeah. So PPC came up. Let's break that one down. So that's pay-per-click, and that's another service that you offer as well. So tell us a bit more about pay-per-click.
So we specialize more so now in Google ads than ever before. It just is a nice kind of synergy. We get lots of learnings from paid media campaigns where we can overlay with SEO, and I'll give you a clear as day example. If we were to run a PPC campaign, we can effectively rank you for any terms that we want, if you like to see it that way. It will be sponsored, but what it does is it will give us live data around search volumes. So, for example, if you are let's say you're a creative agency that offers, videography. Okay, so if we wanted
Listening, Connor.
if you believed that you wanted to rank for videographer in X location, we could target that as a paid term, and over a month have an idea of generally how many people are searching for that, because we will get impression share, da 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 da. Now, what that can then do is influence your SEO strategy, because you can say, well, actually, it's getting 1,000 searches, but film crew in here is getting nothing. So actually, we need to make sure we're concentrating our SEO on these terms, because we have real life data, and there are tools around, being able to forecast and understand search volumes, but it's not live like PPC is.
Yeah.
What you can also then do with kind of paid media is, because you're paying to generate traffic, you can then start to understand, well, how is your website working? And when you break it down, what are people doing on your website? What pages are they landing on? Is that page providing a good enough experience in order for them to go on and take action and convert, and et cetera, et cetera?
And I think to clarify on the pay-per-click as well, we're talking about like if you're still working on your SEO strategy, pay-per-click is a very good way to get right up to the top and be seen even above search. The first three things, isn't it? You can literally pay some of these platforms to put you right at the top, and it's a very quick way to get yourself noticed, I suppose, as well, if you're willing to put the money into.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the most straightforward way of putting it. It is a bit of a quick win, because if you work with somebody that knows what they're doing, they'll be able to start generating traffic from day one, whereas SEO might take 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe up to 9 to 12 months. But it's a great PPC is a great way to test and learn from it, and we are huge advocates of testing and learning.
Yeah, I mean, competitors tend to bid on their competition, don't they? So when you
see a soft drinks brand, for example, and then there'll be other soft drinks for
isn't that a big no-no in the industry?
It's a bit of a unwritten rule, I suppose. A bit of a...
It's snaky. It's
not very good. I mean, the thing is, so if you have a brand that is generating enough demand for you to warrant a competitor going after your terms, then you know what? All it's doing is costing them a lot of money, because if you were to start running ads, you are absolutely the right people that, the person searching wants to get to. Google knows that. So you might be able to generate traffic at 7p per click. Your competitors might be paying £4 or £5.
Yeah, I think I'd just go on every day and just click on their ad. Just grill them
Do you know what? Every so often, I will admit that if there's a company...
You've done it.
Well, no, not specifically. Well, but, if there's a company that I don't necessarily like something, if there is something, I will purposely click on. They might even be number one, but their sponsored ad will come up. So sometimes I click on the sponsored ad.
Yeah.
I am.
You heard it here first, folks. I mean, she's charging you a lot for your pay-per-click.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely rife in in tech and specifically in project management tools. So if you search any project management tool, I'm almost 99% sure that you will have a competitor ranking for that, or in terms of paid media bidding on that term, and it'll be something like, I don't know, Trello versus Basecamp, or it will be those terms. It'll be why we're better than who you're looking for, and that's a hard sell, right? If you're them, you're doing it because you think it's a good idea.
Yeah, actually, you're right. It's very often it's software. I see a lot of them with software.
So you mentioned that you were 30 last year. You run your own business. Very impressive. Very successful. Talk us through a day in the life for you then, as a successful entrepreneur.
Well, yeah, I won't do a day in the life at the minute, because we just touched on our bathrooms being ripped out. But typically, I'm not the earliest of risers, but I'm always in the office before 9. But I'm usually up around, I don't know, 7, 8, 7.
You're not an early riser, but you're up at 6:30, 7.
Yeah.
We've got very, very different opinions on what an early riser is.
No, so yeah, I mean, I would love to be an earlier bird. I'd love to get in the gym before work. I used to do it, but I just couldn't. Basically, I think traveling killed me off as an early bird, because I had no reason to get up for a whole year, before 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the morning, just when I woke up, right? And before that, I was in the gym I had like an hour's drive to work, but I was in the gym at like 7, half 6, 7, before getting into my desk in Hemel Hempstead, which is an hour's drive from us, before 8:30. Now I'm not like that. I wish I was, but I can't.
Look,
but
I can fix that for you. I'm just going to send Freddie, my 4-year-old, round.
Yeah, what time were you
You'll
up this morning?
5:30 this morning. So I'll certainly turn that around very quickly for you.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so usually in the office at 9, we usually kind of have discussions in the team around what the priorities are for the week to Monday. We usually have our kind of level 10 meeting, which if you're into EOS that's what that's about. We then would kind of start going through our kind of project management system. So we usually have tasks that are out there with clients that we need to chase up. We'll then kind of work our way through any sort of campaign checks and stuff like that before working through anything that's with me for internal checks from anybody that's working on the project, before tackling a to-do list. So I'm probably spending about 70% of my time on client delivery at the minute and 30% on growing the business. I would like to get that much more in the other way, but we're very early stage, and I think that's what's sort of missing a little bit in the world of popular business owners, is that you look out there and you see, the Stephen Bartletts of the world who are absolutely smashing it, who have a team of hundreds of people below them, and you're like, oh, what's their day in the life? Or what does that look like? Whereas actually, I think it's like 75% of businesses never get past the VAT threshold. If you employ one person, you're in like the top 20% of businesses.
There's a stat.
There's crazy stats out there like that just make you realize that actually small businesses and business owners are different. They're just different beasts, right? And I think that everybody who runs a business will look to those people and be like, why am I not doing that? Why am I, what am I doing wrong? But the fact is that you're just nowhere near as big, and you haven't got the team under you to be doing that delivery part of the work. And that's where we're at. So that's why a lot of my time is spent in the delivery aspect. So working on strategies for clients, onboarding, managing the growth part of our business as well, making sure we're, trying to speak to as many people as possible, and that sort of stuff. So that's that. I mean, in terms of going back to your point of day in the life, I usually finish up about 6. I'll go home, we'll have dinner, walk our dog Harvey, and then I'll work in the evening until probably 10, 11 some nights. But yeah, that's pretty much a typical day.
Yeah, sounds like I don't have a dog to walk, but pretty much the same. Stop for dinner, go back to the computer. Definitely could spend a few less hours. But one of the interesting stats that I picked up when I was doing some research for questions is you actually take 5% of your company's turnover and you give it to your employees for training, don't you? Can you tell me a bit more about that? Yeah,
definitely. So we, as a former apprentice myself, and just being a bit addicted to learning and, having that kind of drive to just learn about things, big book reader, do lots of podcasts, just I'm in that world, right? And if you're not learning, I believe that you're kind of just stagnating. So we're always trying to learn and improve and and that's something that we try to instill in the people that work with us. So we try to basically give back what we can in order to help people develop around us. So yeah, we invest back into our team in courses, and we try our best to have shared practices that we stick to, and best practices and stuff like that. So we're very keen on trying to develop the next generation. We really want to, and Penn knows this, take on apprentices, not because of the obvious of them generally being far cheaper than full-time staff, but because to give give the next generation some opportunities. Now, we're not the biggest agency, and I'll be honest, I don't think we would expect to retain them for a long period of time. What we'd want to do is be able to give them the opportunity and some good grounding to go on to do amazing things. If that means going into London working for a top agency, that's a win every day in my life. And we're not, not from a fancy background. I had lots of people help me out when I was on my way in terms of giving me an opportunity as an apprentice, giving me an opportunity at different companies, and it's just what we want to do, and I'm massively passionate about that.
I mean, the one thing I will say on that, that I'm the biggest supporter of all this because I do it too. You know, I've got my lovely Joy that came like from graduate scheme, but also it's come back around, hasn't it, somewhat, in the sense of like people that you worked with from earlier days are now actual clients. So that is what I have to say is like amazing, because they think so highly of you, and they honestly, I mean, she talks so highly of you, and you know, she thinks a lot of you, that, you know, she sees how you've grown, and now she's like gone, okay, I've actually got a client, and like it's come back around for your business. So I mean, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. I feel very lucky. In fact, one of our first clients was a previous employer. We were working with them for 5 years, doubled they were at the education side, we doubled their application rate in 2 years just through employing digital properly. So, you know, that was one of our previous clients. But I was so lucky, like my time at Born Leisure, I was so lucky to be able to be working with like genuinely so it's like amazing people, like, and I do look back on those days and just think how lucky I was, like all the time, because the caliber of people, and you have to remember, I'm coming from an apprenticeship background. I had my A-levels, I studied. These guys are massively well educated, so they're far beyond. And I was 19 when I started, alongside somebody else in exactly the same role, who they kind of were a little bit older, much more educated, and we stayed there together there for 5 years, I think, longer, for Colette. And yeah, we were just so lucky, honestly. The knowledge from brand, I mean, the household brands at Born, so that, you know, they were household names with amazing people that worked with them, from data through to tech through to creatives. Like the creative expertise there was just amazing. I just tried to take that as a time to just soak up everything I could, and I worked really hard there. I'd like to say that, but it was more so because I felt, and I think that we all suffer a little bit with imposter syndrome of being different to the people around us and not being as good, and I kind of suffered with it then, and lots of people do, right? I mean, it's a common phenomenon, right? But using it to try and say, well, okay, I might not feel comfortable now, but these people around me are, and what can I learn from them? Be it, you know, even like silly things, but how do they act in meetings that I'm not used to? What is it that they do? Like, and they had a really good learning pathways and good culture and stuff like that. So it's just so fortunate, really.
And like, what was the best piece of business advice you've ever been given?
Oh gosh. Oh, that's a really hard one.
Do you know what? I got stumped on this one when Tigz asked it me in our first episode. It's like, oh God, but actually there's just so much sometimes, actually.
Yeah. It's probably best, let me have a think.
We can come back to that one if you want.
I think, yeah, let's come back to that, because I think there's lots. And I have to try to think, if I was listening and I wanted to hear one piece of advice, what would it be? Well,
it's going to be my next question. You've just jumped the shit. I was going to
say. Have I? Oh, right. Okay.
That's fine. But in that sense, though, like, you know, for people who are business owners and stuff, like, you know, with SEO and with having your own business, like, what is the advice that you can give people?
I think is to just start. On a practical level, set up Google Search Console. That's a really good starting point. But yeah, I guess to go back to your previous question, actually, it's the notion of hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard. Because there's lots of talented people out there that almost don't feel like they have a right to be successful. But hard work, I've found, just seems, I don't know, I don't feel like I'm talented. I feel like I work hard. And I'm willing to fail as well.
That's so important.
And we fail daily.
Yeah.
You know, like and that's something that's difficult to instill in the team that failure is what we're going to be doing. We're going to fail,
Yeah, failure
but
is
it
progress.
means, yeah, exactly. It means we're taking a step in the right direction. But yeah, one piece of SEO advice would be to get started, start tracking it. Start looking at Search Console, have analytics set up, look at what start tracking that data so that if you ever to engage with an agency, they have that to look back on. Yeah, that would probably be my advice.
Well, it feels like a perfect time to go into our quickfire round.
Marvellous.
So, Penny, do you want to take
Yeah,
the lead on
let's
this
go
one?
for it. What is your best business accomplishment?
Ooh. Probably, I tell you what, it's probably employing people.
Nice.
Yeah. And on a personal level, buying my house, probably.
Oh yeah, that's huge. That is
There's nothing quite like that feeling
definitely.
when you get handed the keys.
And what's your best productivity hack?
Oh, I could be here hours for this. So
You're going to have really good ones.
We love processes. I am a process nerd. I always I know. I like to think of like if I were to pick my role in 10 years, what would my focus be? It would be on people, processes, and purpose. Like, what's our purpose? Who are the people? Making sure the right people are in the right seats, and what are the processes that we should be following as a team to grow the business? That would be my dream. That's not how it is.
So you
today.
data on your own business, like the ultimate data. It's like the inception of data.
Data on data.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that my productivity hack would be I'm a fan of chunking things. So chunking work together is good, and having a good project management system. We're hot on that, and we have the rule that if it's not in there, it doesn't get done.
I have that same rule. If it's not in the diary, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Nice.
There's a whole episode on that, by the way, if anyone wants to listen back. The CRM one.
Yeah.
Go on, you can
Oh my gosh. What is one thing the internet doesn't know about you yet?
That I'm restoring my house.
Yes.
I don't know why they'd want to know if they were if they were out
Anyone
there.
stalking him?
Yeah.
Is there an Instagram account? Are we following this?
No, not enough time for that. I'll be honest. We actually bought the house not knowing that just how much it needed to be restored.
Oh.
So
Has it been a surprise?
Yes, it was a bit of a surprise restoration.
Do you have a project management system for your house?
No, I have to. In fairness, I have to give credit to my other half, Abby. She smashes that part of it, and I try. We're both very busy people, but yeah, we. I got to give her credit with that one.
Well done, Abby.
Yeah,
Good
done,
girl.
We've also got a little section. We have an internet search history question where we go back through everything you've put on the internet ever,
okay.
and then ask you a question about it.
Okay.
You look worried, but actually it's fine. On March 20th, 2023, you posted your most recent episode of your podcast, Who's Hot Desking. As we've discussed it several times today, we do love your podcast, and we're dying to know when it's going to be back.
Oh, that is a good question. We do love doing it. So me and Ben, I can only speak for myself. I'm a bit of an introvert, so I like data, and it's very rare you get me away from my desk, to be fair. So well done.
I know. I feel quite honoured that I managed to drag you away.
And basically, we started doing it as a way of our own networking and trying to speak into business owners, and we're just fascinated by learning people around us. We're very lucky where we are. There's a thriving little business community, lots of super cool businesses with really cool people doing great things, and just having conversations about what they do and how they got into those positions, because we just find it fascinating. When it will be back, so we want it to launch our series 3 a little bit later this year, but we are a little bit inundated with work at the minute, so clients always come first. Good.
Fortunately for them.
Fortunately for them. And the podcast was a bit of fun that we started, and it's good. We like doing it, and it will be back. So if you have any listeners that also listen to our podcast, it will be back in. I'm gonna say April.
Accountability goal.
Yeah,
I like
accountability
this.
goals.
Yeah, it's now on recording.
Yeah. So
You got to honour it.
yeah. We would love to. And you know, we were getting inundated with people that wanted to come on, so that we know there's definitely a demand to do it. We just need to crack on.
Looking forward to that coming back.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Honestly, I kind of feel like we've barely scratched the surface, if I'm honest, because I know how vitally important it is. We do some work together as well, like client work, and it's incredible to watch you in action. And you also help me out quite a bit because I'm terrible. But it's huge. So I'd love to invite you back as well, so we can maybe go in a little bit deeper. We can maybe even, if you have any questions for us, please drop them into the comment box or any of our social media platforms, because I know that this is just a huge area for people in business, and especially if it's an area you really don't know much about, but you need expertise from Carl. So we'll definitely invite him back and be able to answer some of those questions for you. But thank you so much for your time. I'm glad I could drag you away from the desk. We will be back next week with another episode. It will be Tigz and myself episode, and we're going to be talking about business priorities. Okay, so what is it that we want to focus on this year? What and how we prioritize, I suppose.
And how we prioritize.
Maybe I need a project management tool for just prioritizing me, just in general.
Do you know what? Actually, funnily enough, I've just done that, but that's a whole other episode, I think, in itself. We'll get to that one.
So much to talk about always.
But for now, we will leave you with the news that we will be back next Wednesday with another dose of Badass Boss energy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things that get us higher on the SEO as well. So we will see you next week.
See you then.